When you first get your trial account and you log in, there's going to be a try it button or some kind of button that starts your trial. And you're going to have to click on that. It's a 60-day trial. And then you're going to want to go into the control panel. And you're not going to see the control panel button until you start your trial. And the control panel is where we go to create the website and the database. And it should have created a website for you. When you click on try it, it has you fill out a form. If it didn't, you can click on new site, and basically you just have to give the site a name, and it does not matter what you call it. So we need this empty site, and we also need an empty database. So we're going to come over to databases, and we're going to choose MS SQL. And we're going to choose add a database. MS SQL 2022 is fine. For the database name, I'm going to call it Playgroup, and I'm going to use the exact same password for everything. I used the password for my login, for my website, for the database, because you need to remember what that is. You are going to need to plug that password into Visual Studio. So you need to remember what the website password is, and you need to remember what your database password is. Okay, so at this point, I have an empty database and an empty website. So I'm going to go over to Visual Studio. This is the authentication project. Before you do anything, you need to make sure your Visual Studio is up to date. If it is not up to date, Web Deploy probably will not work. It has happened to numerous students in the past, and you can see that mine is up to date because I had to update this last night. If you don't update it, when we get into the deployment, there will be an error. Okay, so make sure you update to the most current version of Visual Studio. Okay, next, there is a little line we need to add to settings. So if we right click on our project and we go to edit project file, there is a little line of code that we need to add in here. The code we need to add is XML. You can kind of see this is an XML file. And I'm going to go ahead and put it right above the closing property group tag. And the tag is ASP.NET Core Hosting Model. And then I'm going to key in out of process. This is what my ASP.NET wants us to enter. Let me save that. The next thing that I need to do is download the connection information for Web Deploy, because I'm going to have to pull it into this project when we publish. So I'm going to go back out to my ASP.NET, go into the website section. And to the right of your project, you should see an icon that says Show Web Deploy Info. Click on that. What we're going to do is download the Get Publish setting. And then we're going to end up importing the publish setting to Visual Studio. One other thing you should check here, if you do not remember what this password is, at this point, you're going to want to modify it and jot it down. I've been using the same password for everything in here, which I wouldn't do in a production environment, but because we're testing, I'm making everything the same password because that's just easy to remember. Okay. And if you guys don't know what yours is at this point, modify it and write it down because you're going to need to know the password for the website and the password for your database. So I'm going to go ahead and get publish setting. And it should download. And I am, let's see, I already did this once. I'm going to replace this with my new one. And I put it right inside my Visual Studio project. So I just keep that with the project. Then I know where it is. And I'm going to close that. At this point, I am ready to publish. So I'm going to go back over to Visual Studio. And you'll notice that we kind of go back and forth. So make sure you keep your browser open on myasp.net. So in Visual Studio on your project, you're going to right click and you're going to choose Publish. And you may see a dialog box display. Let me see if I can get that. It's for a publish profile. So it should look like this. It should display automatically. If it doesn't, you can click the link like I did. But what we need to do is click on import profile. So I'm going to click on next. And now we need to find that XML file that we just downloaded. So I'm going to click on browse. And I stuck mine with my Visual Studio project. So I'm going to navigate through all of these folders to find it. Okay, I believe this is the one. All right, so I'm selecting this and I'm going to open it. And then I'm going to click on finish. Okay, and now I'm going to close. And I do need to edit the profile because there are some settings that are not correct. So where we've got more actions, I'm going to click on that and choose edit. And the first thing I need to modify is the connection because I am missing my password. Now this is the password to your site, the one that I just told you to modify if you could not remember it. So you're going to key that in. I'm going to save mine. And then I'm going to validate the connection to make sure it works. So this, when it comes back with a check mark, that means that it should be able to push your files up to the website. We have to do something a little different for the database. Okay, so this first connection is about the site, and settings is more about our database. So here it's telling us our network, how we're deploying, all of this fun stuff. But what we're really interested is databases and entity framework migration. So we're going to do databases first. And we need to replace this local DB connection because we want it to connect to the database that is on the server. So we've got to go back out to the server. We have to go into databases and MS SQL. And here is our database. And we need to retrieve the connection string examples. So I'm going to click on this. And ASP.NET is what we need. So we don't want the double quote, but from the double quote right after it, we're going to drag and we're going to copy that entire string. We're going to come into our project and we're going to paste. Then where it says your DB password, this is the password that you entered when you created the database. So I'm going to pause while I enter mine. All right, so I've entered it and I'm going to turn this little checkbox on. And now this next part, if your Visual Studio is not up to date, this is not going to work. Okay. Since I updated my program, now I actually have the DB context and the member context showing. If yours do not show, your Visual Studio is out of date and you need to update it. Okay. So what we need to do is take this connection string and copy and paste it here and here. Okay. And this is the one that we've entered our password in. So I'm just going to click up here, Control C, and we'll paste. And I'm going to go ahead and turn these on. And I'm going to save this. So at this point, we have connected the site and we have wired up the database. We are going to publish. And when we publish, it should automatically launch this site. This is the URL for our website. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save all of the changes that I have made, and I'm going to publish. Now, when it's done publishing, it should automatically launch that site. So sometimes it does take a few minutes, but once it is done, it should load your site. This is not a secure site. It does not have a secure certificate. It starts with HTTP instead of HTTPS, but it will launch your site. And this is the URL that you need to submit to me. And those changes that we made to our project should allow us to access parents, which is our member controller and the details. We can't edit at this point, but we can create roles. And so for you to test this, you are going to have to create the roles. So we'll do role and create. And our roles were administrator, manager, and user. Okay, now at this point, we can go ahead and register. And to test this, you're probably going to want to enter 3 different accounts, just like you did before. Let's see. For the detection, so it's not probably liking that we don't have a secure site. Detected phishing. That's ridiculous. I might have to test this over in a different browser. Let me try Firefox. So my Scooby password is not going to be usable because I couldn't click on the link because of Chrome. So I'm going to have to do a different administrator. So we'll call him Scooby 2. Darn Chrome. Alrighty. And it's super, super important that we click here to confirm. If you don't do that, it won't work. But now that I have an administrator, I should be able to edit. I called it Scooby 1. All right. Scooby 2. I don't really want this to save there. Okay. Let me just change a little something easy. Oh. All right. So that did work. Let me add a new parent. So you're going to want to probably test this. All right, so that is working. All right, so let me log out of this one. I'm going to register a manager. And I'm also going to register, do a user. So why don't we do Shaggy? He's going to be a manager. Click to confirm. And Scrappy. Just in case you're wondering, I'm using the same password for all of them. Not very secure, but super easy for me to remember and test with. All right, let me confirm. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with the little Scrappy one. Okay, so Scrappy is going to have access to all of these things. Should have access to the details, but a regular user is not going to be able to edit. So that is what you should see is access denied. Shouldn't be able to delete or edit. Okay, so that does appear to be working as well. So you're going to want to probably test this in Firefox and not in Chrome. Now, once you have tested this, I mean, in the real world, we probably would go into the role controller and we would remove the comments that we added before. Okay, we save everything, run a little build. And then we would go back into publish. And then all you have to do is hit publish again. Okay, what didn't it like? Not connect to the server. All right, let me look at what our settings are. Okay, so that's still filled in. Okay. We actually don't need to do anything to the database. Get rid of that. I don't think we want to do the migration on publish because we didn't do a new one. Let's see. All right, that did work. So it just didn't like it that we were trying to redo migrations again. So if you do need to republish, make sure you remove those checks. But at this point, now we've got all of those safeguards in place. So we can't really go to any of these secure locations. Like we can see the events and the home, but in order to see anything else, we have to log in. Okay, and if you guys remember, the managers can pretty much do the same as the administrators, but they actually have more or less access on the kids. So if I wanted to edit parents, I can. But I'm not going to be able to do much with the kids. I have to be an administrator for that. So that's how you can tell if it's working. Now, once you have all this working, don't forget, submit your URL.